A single, frozen frame from a Nest doorbell camera at 2 a.m. A shadow moves across the stone steps of an elite Catalina foothills estate. Then a chilling 12-second sequence. A gloved hand reaches out, taps the glass lens, and smothers the camera with torn ivy leaves. This wasn't a random burglary. Within hours, the front porch steps would be stained with blood. The back doors propped open with heavy clay flower pots from the garden. And an 84-year-old woman vanished into the dark. Make no mistake. They know exactly who did this. The federal authorities are sitting on highly enhanced, pristine images of the suspect captured from that porch, but they are keeping them locked away in a vault. Why? Because the truth doesn't point to a stranger passing through the night. It points directly inward. The family of one of the most powerful media personalities in America just had their world shattered in a calculated, military-grade strike. The public thinks the police are clueless. But behind closed doors, a specialized unit at Quantico is processing a piece of evidence so volatile it could dismantle an entire network elite. I have obtained exclusive details regarding the Quantico forensic file. A sealed piece of scientific confirmation that changes every single thing you think you know about this case. But to understand the terrifying truth inside that file, we have to look at the clues they tried to erase. A revelation I will decode at the very end of this video. To the outside world, January 2026 was just another affluent winter in Tucson, Arizona. Nancy Guthrie lived a quiet, predictable life, structured by a strict daily medication regimen and the peaceful routine of an 84-year-old grandmother. While the public was looking at her daughter's high-profile media broadcasts on national television, no one noticed the silent, predatory scouting taking place in the shadows of her own property. 3 weeks before the abduction, on January 11th, a phantom figure bypassed the perimeter security. It was a complete trial run. This mastermind didn't just stumble upon Nancy's home. They mapped the blind spots of the neighborhood ring cameras, calculated the exact distance to her bedroom window, and noted the critical vulnerability that she took her hearing aids out every single night. If you look at the early family press conferences through a liar's lens, the cracks in the official narrative become glaring. Look closely at the forced composure, the microscopic tremors in the hands of those who claim to be the last to see her alive at a normal family dinner. When Ed Smart, a man who survived his own daughter Elizabeth's high-profile abduction, was asked about the inner circle being cleared by local police, he didn't use standard phrasing. He deliberately chose to state they were supposedly cleared. It's a chilling choice of words that transforms this entire history from a tragic mystery into a meticulously planned conspiracy. The night of January 31st broke the deception entirely. Nancy Guthrie closed her garage door at 9:50 p.m., entering a house that was already a trap. The air outside was freezing, smelling of crisp desert mountain pine, but inside, an eerie, calculated silence was unfolding. There were no overturned chairs, no broken glass, no signs of a violent struggle. The intruder moved through those hallways with an intimate, terrifying familiarity, knowing exactly where to step to avoid detection. Then came the first massive breach that the media tried to downplay. Within days of her disappearance, forensic units didn't just search the grounds. They brought heavy-duty data extraction devices directly into the family home. Specialized tools, normally reserved for deep internet crimes, were deployed to rapidly strip data from personal cell phones, SIM cards, and hard drives. Simultaneously, a family vehicle was seized by authorities, held for 5 long weeks for a complex digital download, so intense it required a manufacturer-level reset afterward. The public assumed the police were desperate for leads. But here is the ultimate twist. The fumbling figure on the porch was a complete distraction. The mastermind wanted you to look at Porch Guy. They wanted the media to obsess over the amateur criminal, fumbling with a flashlight in his teeth, stuffing leaves against a lens. It was a brilliant piece of theatrical staging. The architect of this crime wanted that specific character caught on camera to establish the profile of a clumsy, lone wolf drifter. What they didn't want the FBI to look at was the invisible, sophisticated technical footprint operating just outside the frame. The moment the investigation hit the digital space, a wave of pure panic rippled through the upper echelons of the industry. This wasn't just a local crime. It was an existential threat to a massive media empire. Behind the scenes, emergency boardroom meetings were convened at the network level. A strict, unprecedented protocol was built for Nancy's daughter, Savannah, while she hosted live television. If breaking updates about her mother dropped while she was on air, producers had a hard mandate to pull her off the set before a single word was spoken to her privately. The industry was terrified of a live, unscripted breakdown. At the exact same time, a digital inferno ignited over the ransom notes. Two separate messages were transmitted to major media outlets like TMZ, demanding massive payments in Bitcoin. But when forensic linguistic experts analyzed the text, the entire narrative shifted. The notes completely lacked human error. There were no unique punctuation mistakes, no rhythmic tells, no capitalized slips. They were entirely engineered by artificial intelligence. A random street criminal does not use advanced AI algorithms to systematically strip away their linguistic fingerprint from a ransom note to defeat the FBI's tracking units. This discovery completely eliminates the impulsive opportunist. The story was no longer about a missing person. It had evolved into a high-tech war against federal investigators. A shadow figure, someone highly educated, deeply informed, and operating with a massive grievance, had stepped into the arena to execute a flawless corporate and personal demolition. The blacklist fallout and psychological warfare. What we are witnessing right now is not a standard investigation. It is an absolute career and psychological execution. The stakes have become weaponized. Inside the Pima County Sheriff's Department, a literal mutiny erupted. High-ranking sergeants openly slammed their own leadership on the record, calling the initial response a total clown show, because detectives weren't even communicating basic witness interviews to each other. Even worse, the sheriff faced severe perjury allegations, with local boards invoking rare legal statutes to force his sworn testimony under oath. This institutional chaos was weaponized by the mastermind. They knew the local authorities would bungle the chain of custody, mismanage the crime scene, and leak critical details. They played the system like a violin. As I am recording this very audio, high-powered corporate lawyers and federal entities are actively monitoring public databases, filing strict injunctions to keep specific forensic data completely blacklisted from public view. The information coming out of Quantico is so highly restricted that an absolute blanket of silence has been dropped over the media. You are watching details that are actively being suppressed because the establishment cannot afford for the public to connect the dots before the grand jury is locked. They want this narrative offline, creating a race against time before the curtain drops completely. Now, we finally return to the absolute center of the conspiracy. The Quantico forensic file, and the true reason the FBI refuses to release those enhanced photos. The secret lies in an overlooked physical transfer on that porch. When the suspect fumbled with the flashlight in his mouth, an absolute goldmine of forensic material was left behind. Saliva. It transferred to his heavy-duty gloves, then to the ivy leaves, and ultimately onto the welcome mat he stood on. At the same time, microscopic rootless hairs were recovered from deep inside the home. The FBI didn't use standard databases. They deployed revolutionary DNA extraction technology developed to pull genetic markers from the sheer shaft of a single rootless hair, passing the data to elite genetic genealogists. They didn't build a profile to search for a stranger out of nowhere. They used those family trees to triangulate a name they already heavily suspected. The terrifying truth is that the FBI is completely silent because the target of the DNA profile matches the exact proportions of the enhanced photos. They aren't looking for a suspect. They are waiting for the final legal search warrants to converge on an insider. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. The forensic file reveals that the AI ransom notes were routed through an encrypted server registered to a completely different, multi-millionaire elite figure, who has been locked in a bitter, multi-year legal vendetta against the Guthrie family's corporate allies. Nancy Guthrie wasn't taken for money. She was systematically targeted to inflict maximum psychological torture on an untouchable public figure, proving that the monster orchestrating this nightmare is sitting comfortably in plain sight, pulling strings that reach into the highest levels of society. The establishment is doing everything in its power to keep this file sealed and control the narrative before the August 1st deadline hits. You need to subscribe right now to stay protected from the institutional cover-up. And ensure you don't miss the moment the true arrest warrants break online. The lines have been drawn, and the evidence speaks for itself. Now I want to hear from the core community. Based on the calculated tech, the trial run, and the weaponized AI notes, where do you stand? Is the inner circle a calculated victim of a highly sophisticated elite system? Or is there a hidden monster running this entire plot from within the family's own shadow? Type victim or monster in the comments below. I am personally reviewing the most detailed evidence-backed theories to feature prominently in our upcoming Part 2 breakdown.